there, and welcome back to Badass Branding. We're still in Module 3, Brand Identity, and in this lesson number 5, we're going to be talking about brand photography, and I'll walk you through how to shoot your own brand photos. And we'll start with the truth bomb here, and that is that when people are buying from an online entrepreneur, whether it being a coach or a consultant, and they're the person that they're going to be working with, or at least them and a team, they want to see who they are buying from. So let's get a lesson preview here. In this lesson, you're going to learn what is brand photography and why it's important. We're going to look at the different visual styles of photography, and I'm going to show you how to conduct your own personal brand photo shoot. So let's dive in. So first of all, what is brand photography? Well, brand photography is essentially a collection of custom or curated images that are used as part of your brand identity. And there are two categories of brand photography. First is business brand photography. Now, these are going to be themed images or conceptual images, or typically product or service images. And these are typically going to be for businesses that are not personal brands. And they are not necessarily going to show the face of the business owner. They're going to show maybe their products in use, or they're going to show like a conceptual image of something that's inspiring or that conveys a message that is integral to the business's messaging. And some examples here are, like I was saying, those conceptual images like the tree growing out of a rock. So that's sort of like ambition. And then you have the woman in the motorcycle. That's a brand photo of the product being in use, and sort of that's the lifestyle photography. And then you have folks at a meeting room desk, and that just kind of shows sort of like a business image. And then you have product photography if you are selling products like some red label. And if, a lot of these images are readily available on a lot of stock photography sites. So you're going to end up finding a lot of images like this of people pointing to a computer screen and smiling, or really cheesy or really contrived. I challenge you to don't do that because those images are a dime a dozen, and they're just kind of cheesy. And here are some stock photography resources, many of which I use, and there are hundreds of them out there, but these are the ones that I use the most, and that is Unsplash, Pexels, iStock Photo, Pixabay, Shutterstock, Deposit Photos, Getty, Corbis, and even Canva has stock photography as part of their subscription. And some of these are free, like the Unsplash and Pexels and Pixabay. And Canva are free on some of them. And then the rest of them are either subscription-based or pay per use. And then next up, we have personal brand photography. Now, these are going to be pictures of you as the face of your brand. And these are going to be pictures of you in different scenarios. These pictures are going to convey your personality. It's going to connect with your audience because they're seeing you and that you're a real person, and then they can relate to you. Some examples here, of course, we have Bobby Klink's, a couple of his images there. We have Amy Porterfield's, we have a couple of mine, and a couple of Gary Vaynerchuk, if you don't know him or not, but he's also an entrepreneur, and that's his personal brand. And one thing that you should not do is, brand photography are more than just headshots, right? So don't dig into your 1980s glamour shots or your prom pictures, because those look unprofessional and people will just laugh. All right, so what is the purpose of brand photography? Basically, the purpose is to tell stories, both literal and conceptual. They are designed to connect with your audience so they can actually see you and see you in real life and kind of what you do and what you do outside of work even. And they're also designed to show personality. So maybe the clothes you wear or the things you're doing in the photo will help show your personality. And it can often provide a lot of context in what you're saying, say on a sales page or something like that. And by doing this and by showing that you're a real person and that you have trials and tribulations like everybody else, it builds trust because they can see who they're buying from. And a lot of times, even with brand photography, it will give visual cues on what to do next on, say, a web page or a sales page. Next up, I want you to consider the visual style of your photography. So basically, the visual style of your photos can further articulate that brand personality. And going back to your brand strategy, what visual style do you think will fit your brand? And basically, visual style, I'm talking about like the style in which the photos look like. So are they like really vibrant colors, or are they more toned down or sepia toned? Are they real soft images, or are they edgy? Are they black and white or faded? Are they dramatic? So these are the kinds of things you want the photos to kind of have an overarching style, so that way it all fits within your brand identity. So for instance, here I took one of my brand photos and I just changed how the image looked. I changed a lot of the settings, and you want all of your images to be very similar in style, so that way there's a cohesive feel to it. So some of these are faded or more subdued. There's a black and white. There's a really vibrant one. I wouldn't necessarily use these. I was just using this to show as an example that how you treat your photos even after they're shot is also important. So think about how that visual style will help articulate your tone and your personality. So now I'm going to walk you through how to shoot your own personal brand photos. So when you're shooting your own personal brand photos, there's basically 4 things I'm going to walk you through. You need to decide where your photos are going to be used. And I mean like on a website or web pages, social media, etc. Then you're going to create a shot list, meaning what are the scenarios in which you're going to be in the photos. Then you're going to select a wardrobe that you're going to use in the photos. And then I'm going to show you what equipment to use. So first off, we're going to decide where photos are going to be used. So you can create a spreadsheet or just write it in a journal or something, but list out all the places that your images are going to be used, such as web pages and sales pages. Are they going to be part of the hero images? Are they going to be inset images? When I say hero images, I mean that large section at the top of your website. Obviously, you'll probably have some images in the About Me section. So think about what you're going to be doing in those photos. Social media ads, posts, and then just general brand awareness images. So you want a variety there. So decide where these photos are going to be used throughout your business. And then next up, I want you to plan out your shots. So now that you know where your photos are going to be used, think about where you want to actually take your photos, what location. And then as you're doing that, you need to think about the layout or the composition of the photograph itself and how it's going to sort of play out in its actual use. That's why it's so important to understand where they're going to be used. So for location, it could be a coffee shop, maybe your home office. In my case, I did mine in the kitchen. You can do them outdoors. You can do them in front of buildings, on a farm, in a field. You could be doing something that's related to your business, or you could be doing something that you love that is not related to your business to show your personality. So there's the possibilities are endless here. And so here are a few location examples. If you look at, Bobby's, he's in the city, so he took a bunch of photos in front of some buildings, and he's got some cool graffiti that kind of perfectly goes in line with his branding. Mine, I was we were in the middle of the pandemic, so we were sort of homebound, so we decided to shoot in my kitchen, and I had my daughter take the photos with my iPhone. And then we have one of Gary Vaynerchuk. He speaks so many times a year, so that's kind of one of his, he loves speaking, so that's a perfect photo of him. And then there's Amy Porterfield in her kitchen drinking some coffee. And one thing I want you to notice about a lot of these photos is the actual layout, meaning the positioning of the subject, how much space is on either side of the photo, is the background blurred, is it black and white, is it bright and airy. So these are some of the examples of locations, but also examples of photos in action. So when you're thinking about shot layouts, think about how those photos are going to be used. And it's really important to leave area for text on certain images. So if you're going to have a hero image that's going to be of you, whether it's your whole body or your torso or whatever, leave area on the left or the right so that way you can put text like your your messaging or a button or a call to action or something. Think about, are you facing left or right? If you're shooting, you might want to shoot both. Are you pointing at something? I know it might feel silly taking a photo if you're pointing at something that's not there, but that's a fun thing to do. You see a lot of that in brand photos. And just think about a whole bunch of various poses. You can do a little research online, just look at like brand photo examples, but it could be hands in pocket. A lot of people do the arms crossed. I'm not a big fan of that because it's just sort of negative body language. But if that's you, then you do you. Hands up, leaning up against something, whatever those poses are, and think about that layout of the shot. And when you're doing these shots, make sure you do some close-ups, like chest and above, and then your full torso, and then of course full body shots. Get them all, because you never know when you're going to need one of those. And if you're shooting photos, you might as well get what you can instead of having to go back and reshoot something that you need. So here are some layout examples. One of Bobby's here. He's over there, and you can see he's got a background of like some concert stickers that's kind of faded back. And this is more of a collage, because I believe this image was collaged together, but this is an example of what you can do after the fact. And he's got room for his messaging in the beginning, his intro and his messaging. And then you see mine. I'm looking to the right. I'm actually looking at the copy, and the background's faded out, so I can make myself and the copy and the button stand out more. And here's a couple more. One for Amy Porterfield. You see, again, she looks like she's in a kitchen or some really brightly lit room. She's got the image that fades off to the left, and she's got her copy there. And then, of course, you have one of Marie Forleo, same kind of situation. You notice how they're both looking towards the copy. So one tip when you're shooting these, make sure the background isn't too busy or distracting. And another tip is to, like I said, take way more photos than you ever think you'll ever need, because you never know when you're going to need. I mean, I've got hundreds and hundreds of them from my photo shoot, and that was just mostly in my kitchen and living room. So the next step is to select your wardrobe. So I want you to pick out 2 or 3 outfits you will wear throughout your photos and shoot all of your planned shots in all of your outfits. Depending on where you go, like if you're in public, that might be difficult. So think about, if it's going to be if you're female, obviously, if you have a place to change, or maybe layer things that you can take off to get sort of different looks and feels, because you want some variety when you shoot these. So if you have 2 to 3 outfits, that will give you enough variety with, multiple shots that you could use throughout your branding. So for the wardrobe, pick clothes and accessories that are going to match your brand colors as best as you can, or wear neutrals. Don't wear anything crazy patterns, because that can be very distracting unless that kind of is part of your brand. So it's very dependent on your brand personality. And consider the personality of those accessories. So in my instance, I wear my cool little gig hat. I call it my gig hat because I wear it to all my gigs. I'm a musician, so I always wear that. Or, you got a funky tie, or maybe some cool glasses or shoes or something like that can highlight your personality. And like I say, take pictures in all of the locations in all of your outfits, and then you will get a nice selection of images to choose from, because you're gonna nix a lot of them too. Once you're probably gonna blink in some and all that. So that's the beauty of shooting with your phone, because you can just take hundreds and hundreds of pictures and not worry about film. So looking at some wardrobe examples, you see Bobby, he's real casual. He's got his Chucks on. Yay, Chucks. I wear Chucks every day. He's got his button-down shirt, but it's untucked. Then you look at Amy, she's got her yellow. Even though it's not the exact yellow as part of her brand, it still matches. So it's a nice, clean, open, and airy photo. Marie Forleo's outfit is very stunning and bright and vibrant, and it contrasts nicely against a blue background. Now, keep in mind, she's spent probably thousands of dollars on a photo shoot, so she has the budget to do that. And then we see Anna there in the bottom, where she's writing, and she's got a nice outfit on, nothing fancy, looks like she's in a home office. You've got me in my kitchen, and then we got Tarzan in sequin pants and shoes with lightning bolts on it. So that shows you the gamut of what you can do with your wardrobe to show your personality. Next up, we have equipment. So you can do your photo shoot with the equipment you most likely already have, or you can get fancy. It's really up to you and how much money you have to spend on something like this. Obviously, you're going to get what you pay for when you hire a professional photographer. You're going to pay a premium for it, but they're going to have all the equipment and they know how to use the cameras, and you're going to get great photos. But again, when you're starting out, it's tough. So that's why I'm doing this little guide for the self DIY shoot, just to get you up and running. And the photos are completely acceptable. Sure, they could be better. I would love to have some better photos, and I will be having some in the near future. But for now, this works perfectly. It's up to you. So for the equipment, you can use your smartphone. I use the iPhone, or if you have a digital camera, you can use that. Just make sure that the resolution is as high as it can be. You're going to need either some natural light, so sunlight if you're outdoors, or near a window, so a highly lit room from the sunlight, or some house lights if you're shooting at night or in a darker area. Or you can even use just regular house lamps or inexpensive softbox lights you can buy like on Amazon. So it's really up to you, but those are sort of the necessities there. So some of the equipment examples, in my case, I use the iPhone for my photo shoot, but you can use a digital camera or a DSLR, or you can buy some. They may seem fancy, but they're actually relatively inexpensive. You can get a set of those softbox lights for like under $150. Or you can do a ring light. That's going to cost you anywhere, from $60 to $120 for a ring light. Just really depends on what your budget is and what you're going for. I would suggest pushing yourself as far as you can as far as the equipment goes, because the equipment does help for sure. So just shoot with what you got and the best that you can get. And just to show you a little behind the scenes of my photo shoot, like I said, this happened in the beginning of COVID, so we were really homebound and didn't know what to do. So I had some soft lights, some softbox lights, and I employed my daughter to take some photos with the iPhone, as you can see there. Nothing fancy, just a little behind the scenes, and it was a lot of fun. So we had a good time. And one tip I will say to use is to use your smartphone and to choose the portrait mode, at least on an iPhone. And what that does, it blurs the background. So it really sets you apart from the background. So you don't have to do any of that stuff after the fact. And another tip is, if you are shooting outside, be sure to shoot with the sun behind the camera. And, mind the shadows too. So if you're shooting with the sun behind you, make sure that whoever is taking the actual photos of you, that their shadow does not appear in the image. So I want you to take action now. So I want you to go back and follow these steps and get cracking on your brand photos. Remember to do all the planning. It'll take some time. Think about all the places you're going to use it. Think about your outfits. Think about the shot scenarios, what you're going to be doing in the shots. Do some research on some brand photos so that way you can get some ideas on poses and possible locations, and have fun. That's what it's all about. This is about having fun. And because if you're not having fun, people can tell, So go ahead and do that. And that's it for this lesson. And just to give you a recap, this lesson we talked about why brand photography is so important. And we talked about the different styles of photography, and you learned how to create your own personal brand photo shoot. And that's what we got here for you today. In the next lesson, we are going to be talking about putting your entire brand identity together in a brand guidelines document. We'll see you in the next lesson.